In this video, we will discuss the life and death of James Franklin Bagwell, or Frank, Air Ordnanceman 3rd Class and Composite Squadron 88. The bulk of the documents, letters, and photos that will be shown during this video come from a scrapbook presented to Frank's parents by his cousins following his death. Frank was born on May 24, 1924, to James Franklin Sr. and Lena Bernice Bagwell. He had two older siblings, Maurice and Mary Ann. From the documents available to us, Frank had a typical childhood. He enjoyed playing with his pets and was particularly fond of dogs. He graduated from elementary school in 1937, and based off his field day ribbons, was quite active there. He then attended La Vega High School in Belmead, Texas. While there, he would receive a letter award for football. He would struggle with his grades a bit in the fall of his final year, but would recover in time for graduation in 1941. Following graduation, he would register for the draft on June 30th, 1942. He reported himself as 5'6", 136 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. However, it appears rather than military service, Frank wanted to join the FBI. Included in the scrapbook is a telegram from the FBI office in San Antonio, Texas, dated to September 6, 1942. While there is no additional information included, it is safe to assume that he was not accepted into the FBI. Frank appears to have been enrolled in the Navy at the U.S. Navy recruiting station in Dallas. Here, he is reported as having blonde hair instead of the brown he had identified previously. This brings us to the first letter we have from Frank. Though undated, based on the content, it seems to have been written shortly after his arrival at the U.S. Navy training station in Great Lakes, Illinois, in January of 1943. Thursday, 7:20. Dear family, I am now in extreme pain. Our company got shots this afternoon. We got 2 shots and a vaccination in the left arm, and it is so sore I can hardly move it. I am surely not lacking in friends. Our company, 122 in number, is about 75% Texans. I'm feeling fine. I'll probably get to come home about May 1st. I would sure like to have a letter from home, as I have not gotten one yet. We start rifle drilling in about a week. I'm on guard duty about 8 hours a week, 4 hours this morning. Tell Mary Ann to write me a letter and send her picture. I might get her an officer. Tell Dad to write me a letter. Mother, you send me some cookies. It is very interesting to roll all your clothes and keep it in a sea bag. We have to take strength and swimming tests. If you can get me a songbook with Texas folk songs and cowboy songs, I would like to have one. We go to bed at 9:30 and rise at 5:30. Your loving son. Address: Frank Bagwell, ASSV, Company 148, U.S. Naval Training Station, Great Lakes, Illinois. P.S. Malone is in my company too. While at Great Lakes, his parents received a notice encouraging them to have their son sign up for life insurance. Based off the missing tear-off at the bottom, it seems they did send this to Frank. The next letter we have is dated to March 19th, 1943. Wednesday, 1:14. Dear family, another day has come and we are really beginning to drill in preparation for our graduations. We got our service school grades back yesterday. I was proud of my grades as a whole. General classification test, 92. Average to attain, 70. The highest grade in GCT was 95. I'm about 4 from the highest on that. Mechanical aptitude, 77. Average to attain, 70. Arithmetic, 50. Average to attain, 60. English, 79. Average to attain, 70. Spelling, 46. Average to attain, 60. Radio code, 35. Average to attain, 50. I'm sending my insurance receipt home, so keep it on your records. I am feeling great. I will know about Monday whether I will go to the service school or not. I put down as my first choice Aviation Ordnance. You never know what you will get, though. I would surely appreciate another box before I come home. Thursday, 2:42. We had dental appointments today. They really have some good dentists here, and they really have nice equipment. They filled 5 teeth this morning, and I have to go back in the morning again. You all write me soon. Lots of love. Son. By September 4th, Frank had gotten his Aviation Ordnanceman School Certificate, and on October 20th had received his U.S. Navy Naval Air Gunner's School Diploma. We catch up with Frank while he's stationed at the U.S. Naval Air Station in DeLand, Florida, sometime in December of 1943. Saturday night. Dear family, I hope you all are all moved in by now. I am happy to hear that everything is coming off smoothly. Mom, I am sending home some Christmas gifts so that you can wrap them and distribute them if I don't get home by Christmas. Our squadron has been grounded for nearly 2 weeks now. We are devoting nearly all our time to code, hand tape, and blinker. I went up in a twin-engine Beechcraft yesterday. Because of the extra code lessons, we may have to stay here some extra time. Dad, be sure and try to get me the shotgun shells, number 8. Mary Ann, write me a letter and tell me about everything, and go in and see Gloria and say hello for me. I guess that is about all I have to say for now. Lots of love, Son. P.S. Give me any tips about Christmas presents you can. Shortly afterwards, he would find himself stationed on the West Coast. January 30th, 1944. Sunday. Dear family, I am situated now at the Naval Air Station in Seattle. I have been taken out of dive bombers and put in torpedo bombers. I may be here in Seattle and other places in the U.S. for 3 or 4 more months. This is a nice base. My return address is VC 88, care of Fleet Post Office, San Francisco. It isn't very cold up here, and no snow. Lots of love, Son. While it was certainly exciting to be away from home, Frank seems to have written often. This letter, dated to April, shows that besides his parents and siblings, he was interested in how his dogs were doing as well. April 9th. Dear Mom. Hello, Mom. I hope you're feeling on top of the world today, and like puttering around in the kitchen or in your flower beds. How are the pups? I guess old Spike is just as ornery as ever. One of these days I'm going to write him a letter and let you read it to him. Say, Mom, the Navy has just issued an order that any air crewman that has gone through an operational squadron, such as I went through at DeLand, can wear his air crew wings without having gone to sea beforehand, so I wish you would send them to me as soon as possible. I'm going to try to save a little extra money besides my bonds, so I am sending in this letter a money order for $25 to start with. Mom, would you put it in a savings account for me where you and Pop have your accounts? It's about time for taps, so good night to a mom I love very much. Oceans and oceans of love from your son. It appears that Spike or some of the family's other dogs would win blue ribbons for first prize at the first American Kennel Club Dog Show in Waco, only a few days later, on April 13th. By June, Frank was at what would prove to be his final post, the Klamath Naval Air Station in Klamath Falls, Oregon. June 2nd, Friday. Dear Mom and Pop, here's another little line or two to let you all know I'm okay and still kicking. I'm back in K Falls as I said in my last letter. I got the pajamas okay and they are swell. I wear them nearly every night. We are having quite a lot of rain here. June 7th. Well, it's a little later after payday and a money order for $20 enclosed. Mom, you know those earphones with the rubber ear cups that Dad found when we were out on the farm? Well, just about all the gunners and radio men are getting them and paying $5 for them, as it's too hot to wear a helmet. I wish you would send them to me as fast as possible, and if you can't find them, write me as soon as possible. Our squadron is just flying occasionally, as we are preparing to leave for Hopeville, California. It's about time for taps, so I will close until a later date. Everything is going swell, I'm happy as a lark. I'm getting a swell tan and there's not much work to do. Oceans of love, Son. Frank's final message home appears to have been this postcard, sent on June 11th, only 2 days before his death. June 11th, 1944. Dear Mom and Pop, I am okay and feeling fine. I certainly would like to have a picture of those pups. I'll write a letter later as it's time for taps. Oceans of love, Son. June 13th, 1944. Crash kills 3. Navy bomber cracks up in California. Air station men die in disaster near Montague. 3 airmen from the Klamath Naval Air Station were killed when their torpedo bomber crashed a mile southeast of Montague, California at dusk Tuesday evening. The dead. Ensign James E. Klumgard, son of Lieutenant E. N. Klumgard, petroleum inspector on duty in the Office of Inspector of Naval Material of the 13th Naval District, Seattle, home 6516 2nd Avenue, Northwest Seattle. James F. Bagwell, Jr., Aviation Ordnanceman 3rd Class, mother Mrs. Lena B. Bagwell, Route 1, Axtell, Texas. Clyde Worley, Jr., Aviation Radioman 3rd Class, mother Mrs. Laverne Worley, Morehouse, Missouri. Ensign Klumgard was pilot of the plane, Bagwell was gunner, and Worley radio operator. The plane, on a tactical training mission from the Klamath Station, was flying in formation with another plane. Pilot of the other plane saw the plane suddenly go down, and residents of the district also reported the crash. The single-motor bomber burst into flames upon striking the ground. It was believed that a mechanical failure of some nature was responsible for the accident, which brought to 6 the total of training fatalities and operations from the local station. Bodies of the airmen were brought to Ward's funeral home here. A telegram, sent the same day as Frank's death, was most likely the first notice his family received. Regretfully inform you that your son, James Franklin Bagwell, Jr., Air Ordnanceman 3rd Class USNR, was killed in a plane crash near Montague, California. Please telegraph the Bureau of Medicine and Surgery, Navy Department, Washington, D.C., collect whether you desire remains interred in Naval or National Cemetery or sent home. Escort of 1 person to accompany remains home will be furnished if requested. If sent home, expenses for preparation, encasement, and transportation will be prepaid and refunded on application to the Bureau of Medicine and Surgery. Sincere sympathy is extended to you in your great loss. Commanding Officer, Naval Air Station, Klamath Falls, Oregon. Despite the immense pain his parents must have been in, they were prompt in asking for the body of their son to be sent home, as this telegram from June 14th attests. June 14th, 1944. Instructions given to forward remains James Franklin Bagwell, consigned Wilkerson and Hatch Funeral Home, Waco, Texas, accompanied by naval escort with telegraphic notification to both you and consignee, giving date, route, and scheduled time of arrival. Letter follows. Bureau of Medicine and Surgery, Navy Department. That same day, Frank's commanding officer would also write a letter to his mother. My dear Mrs. Bagwell, it was with deep regret that I learned of the death of your son, James F. Bagwell, Jr., Air Ordnanceman 3rd Class, in a crash of an airplane belonging to the squadron near Montague, California on the 13th of June, 1944. I am sure that anything I might write or say could not possibly make things easier for you in this time of need. However, I do want you to know that your son will be missed by every member of the squadron. The squadron and the Navy has suffered a great loss. Your son did his work well and presented a splendid example to be followed by the non-rated members of the squadron. He was very earnest in his training and eager to become an air crewman. I am sure that he would not have been so happy in any other line of work. I feel that he gave his life for his country just as surely as if he had given it in battle, for he died learning how more proficiently to defend his country. His personal effects have been inventoried by Lieutenant J.C. Hope and Merrick B. Chatfield, and will be forwarded to you in the near future. Please feel perfectly free to write or call on me any time if I may be of assistance to you, or if I may be able to answer any questions that may arise. Mrs. Bagwell, we do understand your feeling and hope that you will accept our sincere sympathy and know that we are with you in this trying time. Very sincerely yours, E.N. Webb, Lieutenant Commander, U.S. Navy. The inventory of possessions, shown here, notes several sets of clothes, uniforms, and personal hygiene items, as well as other miscellaneous possessions, such as a Bible, a class ring, and a checkerboard. His squadron mates would hold a memorial service for their fallen comrades that Saturday. June 17, 1944. This is to inform you that this morning the chaplain held a memorial service in honor of the memory of your brave son, James Franklin Bagwell, Jr., who made the supreme sacrifice for God and his country. All the officers and men of his squadron were present. May God's grace be sufficient for your needs in this hour of bereavement. Commanding Officer. Condolences would pour in over the following weeks, and Frank's parents would apply for a veteran's headstone for their son. When they received their son's possessions, it appears that his fountain pen and class ring were not with them. They then proceeded to reach out to his commanding officer for assistance, receiving a reply a few weeks later. July 10, 1944. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bagwell, thank you for your letter of 30th June, 1944. We are unable to locate your son's fountain pen and class ring. Our records indicate that they were enclosed with his other things. However, we will continue our search. If they are found, be assured we will forward them immediately. Unfortunately, there is no information on whether or not these items were eventually recovered. A memorial service for local war dead, including Frank, will be held at the First Baptist Church in Waco on November 12th. The poem Taps, used during the ceremony as well as Frank's funeral, appears to have moved Mr. Bagwell. He asked the pastor to provide him a copy, which was included in the book. Taps, by Clade Eager Johnson. We are so young to die. Our boyish dreams have merest fledgling wings that brought to each heart brief joys to which it clings. Our boyish deeds late had such baby feet. They barely ran small errands down our street. Our fleeting days have been too short for sleep. To tempt these eyes to close, they vainly weep. For youthful hopes which reach out hungry hands to keep their hold on life whose precious sands are running low within the fatal glass, while skyborne ships drone murder as they pass. But if our death connote world freedom's birth, O thou receiving, resurrecting earth, we are not then too young to die. While Frank had now been laid to rest, his family and community were not yet done honoring him. A letter, dated December 5, 1944, shows that Baylor College, which Frank must have had some involvement with, was preparing for a unique way to honor their veterans. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bagwell, we want you to know that at all times Baylor shares with you your grief over the loss of Frank. I am so sorry to hear of his accident, which occurred while I was away last summer. As I explained to you over the telephone, we are erecting on the Baylor campus a lamppost memorial to each Baylor man or woman we lose during this war. The lamppost memorials are to be all alike and will bear an inscription giving the name, date, where killed, and how, and dates the boy was in Baylor. They are of a beautiful granite to match the Baylor statue, and the trimming will match the stainless steel tower of Patton F. Hall. Each lamppost will cost $250, and where the parents donate the memorial, the plaque will also bear the name of the donors. For example, Frank Bagwell Jr., Air Ordnanceman 3rd Class, killed June 13, 1944, plane crash, California. Erected by parents, Mr. and Mrs. J.F. Bagwell. You might take the above as a suggestion and work out the exact wording you would like on Frank's memorial. We are determined that the memory of our gallant Baylor lads shall not fade from the Baylor campus. We mean to perpetuate the name of each one. Isn't it a beautiful thought that the light from the memorials shall light the way for future Baylor students throughout the years to come? Mrs. Charles L. Martin, sponsor. While preparations were made for this lamppost ceremony, his family received a Gold Star citation from the American Legion in April. The following year, October 25, 1946, the first of the lampposts were dedicated at Baylor. Baylor continues to dedicate lampposts to honor their veterans to this day. Frank's father would pass away in 1964, followed by his mother in 1987. His sister Larice would pass away in 2000, and his last surviving immediate relative, Mary Ann, would also serve during World War II and would return to service in the Air Force in 1951. She would pass away in 2004. Frank's story is not particularly unique. Many brave men and women would die stateside during World War II. Their stories stand as a stark reminder that military service is dangerous, even if one is not deployed to a combat zone. I would like to end this video with the poem Campus Lights, a Memorial. This poem, written by Roxy Grove, was used to dedicate the Baylor lampposts in October of 1946. Lights, like fireflies glowing, through the mist bestowing, on the paths where young feet tread your genial rays. Lights, 'neath spreading trees, where lovers meet, where once the very youth whose names you bear spoke heart's desire. Lights by the sleepy little stream that wanders o'er the campus sward. Lights by the great white way that binds to stately towers the broad facades of sister buildings fair. Bright beacons, as your rows grow longer, our thoughts are grave, but stronger is our love for those of whom you speak. For those brave lads who soared above the clouds, who rode the winds, who crossed the lightning's jagged blade with bolts of fire. Or those who plowed the deep and solemn trough of ocean's black expanse, and rest beneath her feather-crested spray. Or other boys who trod long weary miles, some crawling in the mud of jungle maze, some driving dinosaurs of iron with belching smoke and flame, o'er burning sands or deep in snow, as each man stalked his prey, with man-made tools for man-made aims, not of his choosing. They paid the long-last price, that men might live in dignity and freedom on this earth. Shall we erect unto their memory then mere monuments of stone? I hear them speak. They say, "Let there be light upon the earth, O our brothers. A lamp unto your feet the symbol be, that glowing, mounting upward shall arise, a shaft of peace, our monument in truth to bless mankind. Then shall we live again in you, not perish with our deeds from off the earth, and over us our epitaph engrave, in words the soldier holds most dear, who does the best his circumstance allows, does well, acts nobly, angels could no more." Roxy Grove, October 1946. This video is dedicated to James Franklin Bagwell Jr. and all the brave men and women who gave their lives stateside during the Second World War.